Hey everybody, it's Derek with Colorado Camper Van. Today we're going to talk about something a little bit different again. This van was built by somebody else and brought to us to get some repairs done. And I'm going to talk about one, if you have a van that has been built by somebody else, and about getting it repaired. And then I'm also going to talk about things to look for when you're looking to get a van built. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about after the fact you already own one and before the fact of getting one built, no matter who it's being built by. So this van obviously is built by somebody else. One of the things that the owner has done, or is in the process of doing, it looks like, is they removed all the cabinet doors off here. And I think the reason for that was because the latches would not keep them shut, and you turn a corner and everything and just fly out of them. They have some really cool, if you look down here, they're really cool looking little leather pulls on it, which the idea is nice. There's nothing to snag your pants on, and it doesn't intrude out into the walkway, so you're not hitting them or anything like that. But there's no real catch. It's a soft closed door slide that catches it, but that won't hold it shut while you're driving is the problem with that. So I can only assume that's why they took these upper cabinets off and they're using these cool little storage containers. So they have a really good solution to their problem, and they like the way it looks being open anyway. But it's just one more thing to kind of keep an eye out for when you're shopping to get a van built. So we're in our show van right now. I was going to show some examples of the things that we talked about in the other van, so you can see what we do differently in these. This one here, the latches in it, they're smooth, so there's nothing to get snagged on or caught on. You're not going to rip your pants. When the button is pushed in, it's locked and it does not come open. When the button pops out, now you can pull the drawer out. And then it's locked again. I wanted to talk to you guys about this van. This van was brought to us. It was built by somebody else. It has their components in it, but it had some major flaws in the design build, and it was a reputable van builder. And it's a very cool looking van. When you walk around the outside and inside, it looks beautiful. It's attractive looking, but it has some really big problems. The first is this inverter was mounted in a cabinet that was somehow built and assembled around this, but I don't know how to describe it. It was built and assembled around this. You could not get to the face of it, so you couldn't make any adjustments. And the way the cabinet was, we had to destroy it to pull it out. There was no way to get to the screws on the back sides of everything. So they must have built the cabinet, put it in here, and then started drilling and mounting all this stuff in it, so you could no longer take it out unless you took it out one individual component at a time. So essentially, you could not service this cabinet. The other problem it had, and they had it back to the builder a couple times, and the builder finally basically quit returning phone calls because they were having problems with it, and I guess the builder knew they couldn't access anything, and so they couldn't troubleshoot it. So what we had to do is we had to basically take pry bars and rip these cabinets apart, and we have to rebuild them from scratch. One of the big problems that they had with it, now that we had it apart, is one, this was set wrong, and two, the wiring that we're replacing, you can see that big red wire that we're putting in there, and those are technically the same two wires. This is just like the cheapest wire you can find off of Amazon, and it's aluminum wire that's coated in copper. It's not true copper wire. So right here I have a copper wire, and I have the one we took out of it. The weight difference in this probably weighs 4 times as much. It is a huge difference. And they were having all kinds of electrical issues because when they would turn this on, the voltage and the amp draw that would drop across the old wire was so great that nothing would work. Everything would start spazzing out, and it would flip on and off, and then freak out, and they couldn't figure it out. And they talked to Renogy. Renogy had told the original van builder they had to put thicker wire in, so they did, but it was still aluminized copper wire. It wasn't true copper wire. They were getting by as cheap as they could possibly get. And the owner used it a little bit, and it was still acting up, and brought it to us. And we started figuring out, once we were pulling draws across this wire, we were finding out what the issues were. So I'm just kind of trying to help people decide, one, if you're building your own van, don't skimp on the wire. You know, there's lots of things you don't want to skimp on. For us, electrical components aren't one of them. Renogy is okay stuff, but it's just Chinese. It's not top of the line by any means. It's just okay. But it works. We don't usually see Renogy stuff come in here that needs repairs too often. Their solar controllers are nice and stuff like that. So as you're building your van, or you're looking at builders, is your stuff accessible? Can you work on it? Are you going to be able to get to it if you need to work on it, or somebody else? Because one thing to always remember about these vans is they're not Winnebagos and they're not Thors, and you can't just go to an RV center and they're more than happy to work on them. You have to actually go and find someone that's willing to work on a van that was built by somebody else, whether it's out of state, whether it's in state and it won't work on anyone, whatever the case may be. You own this van now and it's out of warranty. This one isn't out of warranty, it's still in warranty, but if it is out of warranty and you have to find someone to fix it and repair it, it's very, very difficult to find someone that will repair a van that was built by a van builder, just because it doesn't have a network dealer like Winnebago or something like that to get it repaired. So that's always kind of the downside to having these custom built vans, is getting them serviced. So it's very important when you're shopping around and picking a van builder to make sure that all this stuff is accessible and they're using good quality components. And you might have to go do a little research on your own and see what components they're using and make your own educated decision if it's good stuff or not. And how easy is it to service? So this cabinet was built into this bed, and it has a steel frame on the bed, which is built pretty nice. They welded a frame up here and bolted it in, which is all good stuff. However, the cabinet was made as part of this bed and bolted into it. We're still a little perplexed as to how they actually made it and installed it, because it's so integrated into one another, but getting it apart was an absolute nightmare. It took quite a while to figure it out. So again, you want to make sure your stuff is accessible. If something goes out, ask your builder. Say, hey, what if my inverter goes out? Can I change it? What's it take to change it out? And those are just questions you need to be asking. Can I access all my electrical stuff? If any of the components break, can I get it out? Do I have to pull my whole interior out to get it out? Or can I just access that one part? Another part you're not seeing in here, there's a subfloor that goes in here with storage underneath. And it had a steel frame and it had hidden screws. And then they screwed the floor down to it, and then they glued the floor over the top of the screws. So we couldn't even, without totally destroying the whole thing, we couldn't get it out of there. So it's just a big process, and you know, this poor van owner's paying us to come in and straighten it all out for him. But we're getting it straightened out. Look at the driver's side of the same van. So this is a very similar cabinet to what we had on the other side. You notice they give a very tiny little door to access anything. I don't know why they wouldn't have put a large door on here so we can get to the fittings, we can get to everything else. So if there's any problems with this water tank in here, we're in the same boat. We got to rip this whole subfloor out, we got to rip this whole cabinet out, we got to rip the bed up, get it pried up high enough to get the cabinet out. So this is a really good example of what this one looked like before we tore it out. We're going to modify this one when we put it back in. So now they got this van all back together. We went and cut a little porthole in here so we can actually access the screen now. And now we're able to change the settings and do some control issues if we need to, or if the customer needs to get in there and access any of that for any reason, he can now do it. This is the aluminum wire that we took out of there due to the issues they were having, electrical issues they were having. So that's all trash. And you can see we have these cabinets all put back in here now, and the batteries are in there. These batteries are stacked too tall. There's one underneath of it, and I'm sitting on this subfloor. We're going to show you that in just a minute. But we have all new wiring in there, and we were able to get that by pulling that. Like I said, we had to pull that cabinet apart. We couldn't get to all of it just by this little trap door opening here. So it's really important you have full access to everything without having to destroy the cabinets. And we had to rip, you saw from the video earlier, we had to rip everything out of here. The subfloor, all that stuff had to come out. But now the way we put it back in, we made it so it's pretty easy to get out again if they need to get it out without destroying it. Before we were like breaking glued joints and stuff like that. So we have it all back together. Just some more things to keep an eye out for when you're getting a van built. So you can see the subfloor, we put some big screws in here. They're not the prettiest thing. They had everything hidden earlier, but that's what allowed it to not be serviceable. So now this whole subfloor, and they have a really nice beefy frame they built underneath here. But the way we have it made now, they can get that back out and get into this cabinet if they need to. And so we talked about accessibility on some of this stuff. This one has an AquaHot that is mounted under the fridge here. And then our inverter is mounted in this box. This is just a little storage box that doubles as a bench to kind of open up some space in this van. It's just the way we chose to make the layout. Porta potty sits down in there. It gives us storage, but we have easy access to our inverter. We have easy access to the AquaHot that's down in this cabinet. So if you have a van that's been built by somebody else or us and you're looking to get general maintenance done or repair, we'd be happy to take care of you. Reach out to our sales team and they'll see what they can do to get the problem taken care of. If you're on vacation in Colorado and you're having issues, give us a call. We'd be more than happy to take care of it then too. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, hit the like and subscribe button. If you have any questions, reach out to our team at Colorado Camper Van. See you next time.